Welcome to Dracarys Dream Dolls, their journey as I heal and deal. Today, joining me is my best friend Tiffany, and she has been my friend since I was 5 off and on.
Yeah.
She visited me in I.C.U. and Rehab. So do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Yep. Sure.
Were you at when you heard the notes?
Well, I was at home and I was sitting at my desk and I saw David's number pop up on my cell phone and it was before 10 a.m. And I thought, this is probably not good because David does not call me, one, and two, he never calls me before 10 a.m. So I answered and he was very frantic and hard to, I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me at first because he was just saying things like, does Lori have any medical conditions that you know of? And I'm like, what? Like, no, what?
You're her husband.
Right. And he's like, has she told you about anything? And I said, no, what's going on? And he says, well, she's in the ambulance and she's on her way to the hospital. And I'm like, for what, David? You know, so like he's like bits and pieces throwing things out at me. And finally I get out of him that he woke up, you were throwing up in the bathroom and he went in to check on you. And then you had fallen over on the floor and then you weren't able to speak or move. And so he called 911 and they took you in the ambulance and that they thought that you probably had a stroke. And then my immediate thought was that I could not do anything because I knew I couldn't go to the hospital because David was going to be the only one they were going to let be in there. And so then I felt very useless and so I was very upset. But yeah, but we still didn't know for sure if it was a stroke. And so I just waited to hear back. So, yeah.
Well, you covered 1 and 2.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Oh, I was really hoping that David was wrong and that it was some bizarre thing
Just
that
like
never...
always,
Right.
the one time it's right.
Right. And so I was hoping that it was just like some really crazy weird thing that happened that never happened to anybody else before. But I was pretty sure that he wasn't wrong. And so I just sat on my bed. I told Nick and I cried and I didn't know what else to do. And I think I watched some videos on strokes and it freaked me out.
Being dangerous.
Yeah. So then David did then text me after you were admitted and they confirmed that it definitely was a stroke. He wasn't even sure what side it was on and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, what side can't she move? And he said, well, it's her right side. And I said, well, then the stroke was on the left. And he's like, okay. So, and I didn't realize that there was more than one type of stroke.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the kind that you have is not the kind that they can like give you something and make it better.
It was useless anyways because I started having stroke the day before.
And you didn't know. You just had a really bad headache, yeah?
Leave it to me.
Yeah. So, you... And that's also what I told David when he said, well, has she told you of anything that she's having problems with? I said, no, because unless I specifically ask her these things, she won't tell me. So, yeah, so I said she wouldn't have told me anything. And so Yeah, so then he told me that you definitely had a stroke, and that they were going to have to do surgery, and he was really mad that they weren't doing it right away. But really, it was better that they didn't. They needed to make sure they knew what they were doing before they got in there.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah. But then he was mad that they had to do a COVID test and all that stuff before they would do the surgery. But
I woke up for that, cramming Q-tips in my brain, giving me bloody nose.
Yeah, well, you didn't have it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what if she did? Were they just not going to do the surgery?
No.
Silly. But anyway, and then, so that was, it was very, I didn't realize all of the things that you were going to have to deal with. I had never heard of somebody as young as you having a stroke. Like, my grandfather had a stroke.
That's why stroke awareness is so important.
Yeah. And I've learned a lot about strokes since.
Leave it to me to have a stroke during Stroke Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Keeping it hardcore.
Yeah, and that was when I was at the I.C.U. visiting you. I would get my coffee at the Starbucks, and the little sleeve that they put on it was Stroke Awareness Month and all the things that you should do if somebody's having a stroke. And I'm like, yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of made me mad as you were laying there in the bed, and I was looking at you, and not talking.
What did you do next?
Well, I did what I could, which was, okay, I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to tell everybody to pray for Lori. And, I made sure that David was aware that I wanted to do this, because I didn't want to just blast it out on Facebook or whatever and then have people that he hadn't contacted yet find out from my post. And so I posted about it, just asking people to pray for you. And then I realized that it was going to be a financial hardship on you guys to have you in there for so long, because David was the only one that could really go to see you. And so I put the GoFundMe together and put that out, and quickly raised you guys a chunk of money. So
that really helped.
Yeah, and so I was really touched by how many people love you and want to make sure that you're taken care of. So even people.
I was too.
Yeah.
When I had enough brain back so I could realize it. Yeah.
So. Really small, Lori.
Yeah.
You came in visit me in hospital, but due to COVID restrictions, how was it?
Due to COVID restrictions, how was it?
Yeah, it was a pain in the butt, really. David was...
It was a pain in the butt for me too.
Yeah. I was just thankful that they didn't necessarily care so much that I wore a mask in your room, because that would have been frustrating, because I basically, whenever I was there, I stayed there the entire time that I was allowed to stay, because I didn't want you to be alone. And I knew if I left, then no one else could go. So the hospital had the policy of one visitor per 24 hours.
And my kids couldn't visit.
Right. So because they were children under 18, they couldn't come. And so then, if one of your adult children came, then they were your one visitor for the day. So that was a bit frustrating, to say the least. Especially because we could come and go as we pleased, but it was just the one for the day. So lots of logic there. And I got quite a bit of bracelets.
Yeah.
I have a collection.
I do too, and it's growing.
Right, because you still have
Yeah.
to go back in for therapies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This Wednesday and Monday brought bracelets now. I can't remember. So, how was it in the I.C.U.?
But it reminded me of a really large frosted glass closet with sliding doors on it, and with your bed smack in the middle with a bunch of equipment all around you. And it was hard because I felt like there was a lot of staff that was stretched really thin, it felt like. And especially for such, the intensive care unit, you would think that they would be able to attend quicker. And so a lot of times you would be in pain, obviously in pain. Your heart rate would be shooting up and you're just writhing in your bed. And I would ring the nurse and they would say, well, let's give her some Tylenol. See if that
My
helps.
brain blew up. Let's see if some Tylenol helps.
Right, and then so I would have to sit there and wait and watch you writhe in pain, and until it was long enough that the nurse was satisfied that the Tylenol didn't help, and then they would give you something stronger. But then of course that would take a while to kick in sometimes, and it was frustrating. But when I first got there, the first day, I didn't know what to expect, because David's, he's not the best communicator.
Yeah. I've been told that.
Yeah.
But he's cute.
Yeah. And he loves you.
Yeah.
So, and so I get in there and you had surgery, obviously, and they were taking the gauze off of your head, and it was stapled to your skull. And I'm just like, oh, watching him. And the night nurse was like switching with the day nurse when I came in. And so they were both dealing with it. And they had like a warm cloth to try to, loosen up all the nasty blood that was in your hair. And,
yeah.
And they're pulling
that
these staples
didn't work.
No.
Yeah.
But it was hard because it was like I didn't want to pick it out and then have it
I'm
hurt
surprised I didn't get maggots in my True?
Yeah, your hair was pretty nasty. It was really nasty.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you didn't really do much, except for when they were pulling the staples out. Your face definitely grimaced a lot. And then they tried to get most of it out, but your hair was in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so.
That shows how much pain I was in, because staples didn't hurt as much as my head. Mm-hmm.
Right.
What did I look like after brain surgery?
Well, I remember looking at it and thinking, because the surgeon had left like a little patch of hair right in the front. And I thought, oh, well, that's good, because then she can kind of, still look. It doesn't look like a big just
Comb
chunk.
over.
Yeah, a little comb over, like it wouldn't look too
Even
bad.
though I part my hair on left.
Yeah, well, you can start doing it on the right. It'd be good. And but then I thought, man, that is a very large chunk of hair that she's missing. That's gonna be hard to hide. And it just looked crazy because it was a big incision in your head, so.
What methods did you try communicating?
Well, at first, you obviously couldn't talk at all. And you knew who I was. And so I wasn't concerned that, that you didn't know who I was. Because at first I was like, I don't know if she's going to know me. And but you did the thumbs up and the thumbs down.
Yeah.
But you confused it a lot. You would say thumbs down or thumbs up when you meant the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would start to do things for you because I thought that's what you wanted. And you're like, and I'm like, what? And then I'd figure out that you had accidentally told me the wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do because they had the printed out picture card things in there. And
I was so frustrated.
yeah, and I was trying to do those with you, and that just pissed you off. Those just pissed you off. So I was like, okay, we're not doing those anymore.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember trying to ask you what you could understand, what you couldn't understand, what was affected.
I could understand all the words. I just couldn't use them, and pictures were confusing to me. Except for toilets, that there was toilets.
Mm-hmm.
Not confusing for me. All the other communication boards, the pictures were confusing.
Yeah.
And words written, forget about it.
Right. I tried that a couple of times to show you some words, and yeah, you didn't seem to get that at all.
And it was the most frustrating because I knew I should know these words like M-O-M.
Right.
But I couldn't.
Right. And yeah, and I was trying, that's what I was just trying to figure out was what was hard for you, what was, not going to be, if you could understand everything I was saying. And then that made me very happy that you could at least understand everything and comprehend what I was saying.
Yeah.
Even if you couldn't get the output out, you could understand what I was saying. And so that gave me a lot of hope for your future.
The first time I remember you communicating with me like normal was when Bush plants.
Oh, the rhododendrons.
Yeah.
Yes. So the guys realized pretty quick that you were going to need a ramp to get in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And David had been convinced that you were going to kill him if we took out the rhododendron bush. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. So big and so old.
I have many.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I think Lori's gonna like to have a straight ramp instead of this curvy, weird thing that you guys are trying to attempt to build. How about I just ask her, if she's okay with us taking out this rhododendron bush? And so I was showing you the picture of the house with the bush, and I'm like, can we take it out?
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
But it was a big deal. Like, they had this whole, like, just spirally thing out in the yard, and I was like, oh, man. So Nick was very happy because he was able to just build it straight, and that was much easier. So,
I love the rump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
How did you first communicate with me when I have words?
with your words, you didn't have a whole lot at first.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
Were you surprised I had any?
Yes, because I saw you laying there for a couple weeks in the I.C.U. and I was very upset thinking that you were not going to be able to talk to me
And
again.
in the hospital, and in rehab for a while, there I didn't have any words.
Yeah, so when you went from the I.C.U. to the general portion of Tacoma General, then you had a few words, but it was mostly, well, and then it would be, that's what you said a lot. Well, and
I
then
didn't
nothing else.
mean to say it.
Yeah, but it was, and that sounded like you to me. It was like a burned, like thing to say in your head or something. But it sounded like you, and your laugh was the same. And it still is.
Yeah.
And so, but then you would try to say something and then you would just get mad because it wouldn't come out. And then you would say a couple of things once in a while when you first got into rehab. And then I think it was probably the second week, I remember the doctor coming in and asking you who I was. And you could say my name well enough for him to understand it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
Because I could understand what you were trying to say most of the time, but having other people that weren't used to listening to you understand it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that also Dr. Elias had heard me enough times to know my Russian accent.
yeah, that's also what I thought too, is that you sounded like you had a Russian accent.
Hey, I'll own it.
Right?
I always wanted a Russian accent. How did you feel about cutting my hair?
Well, I was nervous that you didn't really want me to, that I was just interpreting what you were trying to tell me incorrectly. And so I was making sure.
Yeah, I'll remember you saying, are you sure? I wanted relief. Yeah.
And I could imagine. I mean, I've had my hair in a nasty, thing in the
Not
back of my head.
like this.
No, but I mean, and it just gives me a headache.
Yeah,
and it's
and
horrible.
blood crusty in my hair, and the nurse is kept saying they were gonna brush my hair, and they give up, and it in heavy knot of
Yeah, because when I shaved it off, it like came off in one piece. It was like a big
it
mat.
felt so good.
Yeah, it was pretty great because I got a hold of Kanoe and she brought down the clippers for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I was really nervous.
You don't know what shape my head is. I could have a cone head
Right.
under there.
Yeah, but it turned out pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to make it look like Tank Girl, but there's a reason that I'm not a hairstylist, so we ended up just shaving the whole thing. So, yeah. But I made sure I texted David before I did it because I wanted to make sure that he knew that you told me to.
Yeah.
Because
And he was surprised like you going into the I.C.U. and having staples pulled out.
Right.
I think you said the surprise.
Well, I didn't want him yelling at me, being like, "What did you do to my wife?" But his reaction was pretty sweet. He says, "She'll still be sexy." So, I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
sweet. So, and then when we shaved it off, it was like its own being. It was like a big mat. It was so gross.
I was glad you caught that on video because I didn't keep the hair. It was so gross.
Well, I wanted you to keep it, but you said no. So I put it in the garbage.
Yeah. It's things that should be forgotten.
Okay.
How was it seeing me in rehab for first time?
Well, it was great to see you, in there. You still didn't have a whole lot of speech, but it was coming back pretty quickly every time I saw you. And I know you probably didn't feel like it was great, because you're just frustrated that you can't talk like you used to.
I was grateful for any words.
Yeah. And so, but it was hard because I didn't know if I should help you half the time, if you wanted me to help you, or if you wanted to try to do it yourself, or if it was going to make you mad if I didn't help you.
If I was mad, I'll let you know.
Yes. Yeah, and I know. I was trying to be, as helpful as without like overstepping, and that was really hard to figure out what you really needed help with and what I was just being motherly
let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you did. You wouldn't let me help you with basically. Right. And that was it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, your grunts were pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I still am good at grunting. How were my what were my therapists like in rehab?
It was just a lot of really simple things at first. And it really helped me to understand what your capabilities really were and weren't. And just like getting up off of the surface, that was really hard for you. But you hadn't really been able to walk. Like I remember before you went to rehab, they fitted you with that weird boot thing on your foot. And
my knee brace.
Yeah. And they had you standing up, and that was so hard for you. Just for like, I think it was not even a minute. And that was so hard for you. So, being able to see you walk was really cool. And then, it was just a lot of, just really simple things. And then being able to see what you could do with your leg and what you couldn't do with your leg. And then by the end of it, the ability that you had gotten back in your leg was pretty great. And your shoulder and, all of that. So, yeah, and then watching, the electrodes on your arm.
That was everybody's favorite.
Yeah, Misty was pretty great.
Yeah.
But that was fun, watching that, and then, having your hand move without you wanting it to.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It was good to see, because then every time I saw you, you were doing better and better. And I guess I didn't have a whole lot of, I didn't really think about what your ability would be or not. And I didn't realize how much.
Stroke, that's it. It's her life is over.
Right, well, kind of, but it was just
She's never gonna walk or talk again.
Yeah, I was pretty upset thinking those things, because I had watched some videos on my way.
A lot of people do, and I don't think that it's good for recovery.
Well, it doesn't help too that a lot of people that have had strokes, first off, are older people, and so they usually have more problems anyway.
The only people that you know of had stroke are old. The younger people disappear.
Well, yeah, and the only person that I knew that I have experience with was my grandfather. And he was in his 80s, and so, you know, and he had a lot of other problems to begin with, and so I just thought, well,
his life was over.
Yeah, pretty much, and so that's what I'm visioning for you, and it was really freaking me out. And so, yeah, but to see the progress that you were making every time I saw you, and like the fact that you had no control of your ankle and things like that. I didn't even think about those kinds of things, that you need your muscles to hold your ankle up. You know?
Don't.
Yeah.
But I can walk with braces.
Yeah. But I didn't even think about that kind of thing. You know, like you have to be able to hold your ankle up. You know, because it'll just go if you don't. You know, that kind of thing. Where it gave me a better picture of where you were at and what you needed help with. And then like the pants that have buckles or buttons or anything like that, you know, I don't think about it. I just, you know, unbuckle and button and whatever. And it's like, I can't even imagine trying to do that with one hand, let alone my left hand.
Yeah.
You know, so sorry.
A lesson pants for me.
Yeah.
What did you think of my therapist?
I think they were all pretty great. Most of them, I can't think of any that were not good. But there was a couple that were my favorites.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they were all pretty great. I loved your speech therapist.
Yeah,
So,
Petra.
Petra was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was my favorite. She was the funnest. And then Misty as well. So, yeah, they were all pretty fun. But yeah, those two were a hoot to be around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, small.
You were the best with communicating with me. Thank you for that. So as soon as can I ask you what happened to me?
Oh.
How did
That kind of put you on the spot. Sorry, how did you deal with that?
I could ask you first what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
How did you tell me what happened to me, and how did you deal with that?
Well, I just basically told you, you know, like the events, you know, that I knew of.
You were shocked that no one had told me.
Right, and that's why I was confused at first, because I thought, she can't really be asking me what happened.
I remember I asked you on Messine how.
Yeah, and you were in rehab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, there's no way that nobody's told her yet, you know. And then
no one.
And so that was probably the biggest hurdle, was like, is this really what she's asking me? You know, so then I just went through and told you, you know, this is what David told me. This is what he told me from the hospital, you know, because it's all secondhand for me, most of it at least. And that your Aunt Pat had messaged me and said that you had told her that you thought you had a stroke before.
Yeah.
And so then we're going down another rabbit trail that ended up probably wasn't related to what happened, because, you know, the type of stroke you had doesn't usually happen repeatedly.
It happened repeatedly. I had it confirmed in scan.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And it happened that time that you thought when you told Pat about it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So, but it just wasn't as much.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You and your crazy stuff that happens to only you.
A unicorn.
Yeah, really. So I told you about what Pat had said to me, And then you confirmed that, but I had it in my head that it had happened like a few months before.
Yeah.
And then when we're talking to the doctor about it, then you're like, no,
Yeah.
years.
And that took a lot of effort to communicate that with you, and thank you for being so patient with me.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, I can't even imagine being where you were at. So I know you weren't doing it on purpose, and so so then we figured out what that was, and I just told you about everything that I knew personally. I mean, I have no problem telling you. It was just, I was surprised that was that was the first thing I told you.
I don't know if you heard, my husband isn't the best at communicating.
Right. But they had told you had a stroke. You just didn't know what happened.
No doctors, no anyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I can ask, you were the only one that was patient enough and know me enough to communicate the question.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad that my ability to know you.
And place charades, well done.
Yeah. That was really a big thing too. Is just just guessing what was going on with you, and asking you yes or no questions.
Yeah.
And you got frustrated a lot with me, but
not with you, with me.
Yeah, but I mean it was a frustrating thing.
I was used to communicating. And now I can't, and it seemed like it should be easy.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I was frustrated with me.
Yeah. Well, and just your lack of ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was definitely taxing on you.
Yeah.
To do that. And it looked like it tired you out quite a bit. So
it was well worth it.
Yeah. So
how did you feel about me coming home?
I was excited because I knew that you wanted to be able to see your kids and your dogs and your cat and, well, we're not going to talk about the cat. But the cat died and David didn't tell me. So, yeah.
He's not best communicating.
Yeah, and he called me after he got back from the hospital, and he's like, sorry I'm calling you so late, but I had to bury the cat. And I'm like, what? It was so horrible. And, it was almost comical,
Yeah.
if it wasn't so crazy,
Yeah.
It was. And then his mom had gone in the hospital the same day.
She broke her hip again.
Yeah, so he was a little spread thin at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised he even called me.
Yeah.
Because I would have just been done for the day. But I appreciated it. But yeah, it's crazy.
How did you feel about me coming home?
Oh, so sorry. Yes. Well, I knew you'd be excited to see everybody because I know you hadn't really been able to see the kids, and this is your domain. This is going to be happier here than in rehab. But I was concerned because everything I had watched and read about was that, once you get out of rehab, your therapies aren't nearly as often as they needed to be.
And with COVID, the worst.
Yeah, and so I knew that it was gonna drop your therapy quite a bit, and so I was really.
I didn't even have speech out first.
Yeah, but I was glad that you had started doing things on your own. Like you had all this stuff on your iPad, and you knew that you needed to exercise and that kind of thing, and do the things that you had been already doing in rehab. So,
Cause take control over the situation and everything else.
Yes.
I have heard that I'm a little bit of control freak.
just a little, just tiny bit. Yeah, not at all.
That can be sometimes good thing.
Yeah, and you had done a really good job. I remember David was very proud of himself when he finally figured out how to pay some of the bills, and he needed help from like 3 different people to do that because you had a system which it made sense to you, but it made no sense to David. So
I gave him the opportunities to. He wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I know. So, but he was happy. He was happy when he finally figured out how to pay some things. I remember he was very proud of himself. So, yeah, and he did really good, making sure that everything here was taken care of. So, I was pretty proud of him. So, yeah, because you to take your place is needs dozens of people.
Yeah.
So, so don't have that happen again, okay?
Yeah.
It was very stressful for everybody else. So.
What do you think about me celebrating my 1-year stroke anniversary?
Well, I think it's great because I know where you were, a year ago. And I remember texting Nick, my husband, when I was in there and looking at you and thinking that I don't think that she's going to come out of this. I think she's not going to talk ever again. And I was very upset. And it didn't help that I freaked myself out by watching all sorts of things on YouTube. But so, and I didn't have any idea about the type of stroke you had or anything like this at this point. But even now, knowing the type of stroke you had, that's actually one of the worst ones, because it does so much more damage because they can't just give you something and make the blood clot go away or the blockage go away. It's there.
Yeah.
It's they have to do surgery a lot of the times to remove the blood to relieve the pressure, and the damage is already done at that point. So
yeah.
And so the fact that you have come as far as you have in just a year is amazing.
Why I do the videos. It works if you work it.
Yeah, and it does, and so I'm really excited to see where you're going to be at in a year, because even when you first came home and we would go and get lunch and stuff, you weren't able to really get around very well. It was so slow to just get into the seats and stuff like this, and now you're pretty quick.
Yeah,
you're pretty quick now.
Especially with my knee kids, I can walk.
Yeah, because you would go the wrong way. It looked like it hurt. I was like, oh, every time you'd walk. And anyway, so just knowing how far you've come in this 1 year, and just even in the last couple months, your verbal skills are amazing in the last couple months.
Yeah.
You're able to find your words, even if you can't say them as clearly as I think you'd like to. You're able to find them, and or at least most of them, I think.
Yeah.
And you used to give up a lot.
Yeah.
You would be trying to say something, and then it was gone, and you couldn't get it out. And so you're able to just have a conversation now, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. So I'm happy about that.
Little
If
wedding.
you could say one thing to a friend or family member of a stroke survivor, what would it be?
Well, it would be that don't think that they're going to stay where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
That even, because a lot of the things that I read was like 6 months, you know,
Yeah.
or a year or whatever, and you're done. You're not really gonna-
Plateau.
Yeah.
My ass.
Yeah, and you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
You keep gaining. It's not as noticeably great,
Yeah.
because before you could not talk at all, and then you could talk, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a big gain, you know. But the abilities keep getting better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't give up on thinking that that's where they're stuck at, and don't stop pushing them to keep going, and think that they're just gonna, you know, watch TV all day and not really work on anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you don't, I don't think you sit still.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
I work on it every day, unless I'm napping.
Yeah.
'Cause I gotta take charge of my own stroke.
Yeah, and because it's your life,
Yeah.
you know, and nobody else can do this for you. And
Yeah.
that should be everybody's philosophy with their own life anyway. But
Yeah.
you know, but you've always done that well, and it doesn't surprise me with you, like, because every time that there's some sort of a challenge, you are always like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Not this time.
yeah. So, and I mean, and I understand how hard it must be though, because
Yeah.
I know you, you know, I know pre-stroke Lori, and I know that that's still you in there,
Yeah.
you know, and you just can't express it as well, and that's got to be super frustrating.
And I can't do some things by myself
Yeah.
that I would like to
Right.
go on a drive by myself and just be.
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember when you got to go to the bathroom by yourself.
Yeah.
That was so awesome.
Was awesome for me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I remember, because I'm you know, I can't even imagine having to have help every single time
Yeah.
I needed to go to the bathroom.
I didn't mind except for unless you knew before you gotta go pee that you wanna go pee. Their nurses took too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember.
During the day, nurses take so long, and I had hard time holding it for a half an hour.
Right, and I wasn't supposed to help you.
Yeah. It was night nurses were excellent.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember like ringing the bell and then like looking in the hall.
I
trying to find
could
somebody.
be dying in here.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's just like, "Where's everybody?" Okay.
Yeah. At front station.
Yeah, I remember David said he helped you a couple of times just because.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just gonna help her. Ridiculous. But I mean, yeah. So that kind of thing. You can go to the bathroom by yourself
Yeah.
now. And you can pretty much do everything you used to do. You know, you could text another person.
Yeah.
But you could go downstairs if you really wanted to. Yeah.
With another person, what's the point?
Yeah. So, yeah. But at least you get out of laundry. Make the kids
I got it out of it anyways.
Oh, really?
Kids.
Yeah. I don't know. Then I'd miss it if I couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
No. Not this is all laundry.
Yeah.
I miss cooking.
Yeah. I wouldn't miss dishes even a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. But the laundry, there's something about like the satisfying clean clothes when they come out of the dryer.
I hate laundry. First, gotta wash it and dry it, fold it, and put away.
Yeah, I like to fold it.
I fold and I put away.
Yeah. I like, but I am glad. I'm very glad that you're back.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that, you know, the type of a stroke that you had will kill you.
Yeah.
And so I'm very glad that did not happen. And and then your seizures, that was another.
Yeah. It's apparently common with my type of stroke.
Yeah, that's also something I was looking up recently.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to educate myself on all the different types of strokes, and unfortunately, yours is a weird one too, because it wasn't usually it's like some malformation or something.
It was high blood pressure.
Yeah, but usually that's like a tiny percentage of the type of stroke that you have to begin with. So it's like, gosh.
Yeah.
You know.
On a unicorn.
Could happen again now.
Yeah, I'm on 3 blood pressure medications, and I'm not old.
Right. 43 is not old.
Yeah.
Definitely not somebody you expect to have a stroke. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so hopefully they do find it.
Yeah,
because this is just a bit crazy. Like you and your unicorn issues, Lori.
Thank you for joining us.
This video, like and subscribe.
That's great.